Hemolytic disease of the newborn is a significant immunologic disorder caused by maternal antibodies destroying fetal red blood cells. It occurs when fetal red cells, carrying paternal antigens, enter the maternal circulation, typically through small feto-maternal hemorrhages during pregnancy or delivery. The mother's immune system recognizes these cells as foreign and produces antibodies. The first response is IgM, which remains in the maternal bloodstream and doesn't affect the fetus. But with continued exposure, the mother generates IgG antibodies, which can cross the placenta. These antibodies bind to fetal red cells, triggering hemolysis. There are three major types of hemolytic disease. Rh incompatibility is the most severe. When an Rh-negative mother is exposed to Rh-positive fetal cells, usually during a first delivery, she forms anti-D antibodies. These are initially IgM, but subsequent exposures, such as in later pregnancies, lead to IgG anti-D, which cross the placenta early and attack the red cells of Rh-positive fetuses, causing progressively worse disease. ABO incompatibility, by contrast, is more common but usually milder. Type O mothers may have naturally occurring IgG anti-A or anti-B antibodies that affect type A or B babies. Finally, minor blood group incompatibilities, like Kell or Duffy, can also cause significant disease. Anti-Kell is especially concerning because it not only causes hemolysis, but also suppresses fetal red cell production. The consequences of hemolysis extend beyond anemia. As red cells are destroyed, unconjugated bilirubin is released. Before birth, the placenta helps eliminate it, but after delivery, the newborn's immature liver can't keep up. Excess bilirubin can cross the blood-brain barrier and deposit in brain tissue, leading to kernicterus, permanent neurologic injury marked by cerebral palsy, hearing loss, and intellectual disability. Understanding this sequence, from maternal sensitization to antibody transfer, red cell destruction, and risk of brain damage, highlights why early recognition and management of hemolytic disease is essential for neonatal outcomes. The Coombs test identifies antibody-mediated red cell destruction. There are two forms, direct and indirect. The direct antiglobulin test, or DAT, detects maternal IgG antibodies already bound to the infant's red blood cells. This is used to assess whether immune-mediated hemolysis is occurring in the neonate. The indirect antiglobulin test, or IAT, detects unbound maternal antibodies circulating in serum. This is typically used antenatally to screen maternal blood for alloantibodies. Both tests rely on anti-human globulin reagent. If IgG antibodies are present, either free-floating or bound to red cells, the reagent causes agglutination, confirming antibody activity. A positive DAT indicates that red cells are being targeted for destruction, increasing the risk for anemia and hyperbilirubinemia. However, in ABO incompatibility, the DAT may be negative despite ongoing hemolysis. This is due to sparse A and B antigen expression on neonatal red cells, which limits antibody binding and can reduce test sensitivity. Rh disease occurs when an Rh-negative mother is carrying an Rh-positive fetus. If fetal red blood cells cross into the maternal circulation, the mother can become sensitized to the D antigen. Sensitization can happen during a previous pregnancy, miscarriage, invasive procedures like amniocentesis, or any event causing fetal-maternal hemorrhage, including trauma or placental abruption. Once sensitized, the maternal immune system produces IgG anti-D antibodies. These antibodies cross the placenta in subsequent Rh-positive pregnancies and lead to immune-mediated fetal red cell destruction. Prevention is achieved through administration of Rho-D immune globulin, commonly called RhoGAM, given routinely at 28 weeks gestation and within 72 hours postpartum if the newborn is Rh-positive. A critical point. Even very small volumes of fetal red blood cells, as little as 0.1 milliliters, can trigger maternal sensitization. This underscores the importance of timely and appropriate prophylaxis. Infants affected by Rh disease typically show a positive direct Coombs test, confirming the presence of maternal antibodies bound to their red cells. Jaundice develops early, often within the first 24 hours of life, and may progress rapidly due to ongoing hemolysis. Anemia is usually present and may be severe. The resulting extramedullary hematopoiesis leads to hepatosplenomegaly, enlargement of the liver and spleen as they attempt to compensate for red cell loss. In the most severe cases, Rh disease causes hydrops fetalis, a life-threatening condition characterized by generalized skin edema, ascites, pleural and pericardial effusions, and fetal heart failure. These findings reflect both volume overload and profound hypoxia resulting from uncontrolled hemolysis. RhoGAM is a preparation of concentrated anti-D antibodies given to Rh-negative mothers to prevent Rh sensitization. The goal is to eliminate fetal Rh-positive red blood cells from the maternal circulation before the immune system can recognize and respond to them. The mechanism relies on antibody-mediated clearance. When small amounts of fetal blood cross into the maternal bloodstream, as can happen during pregnancy or delivery, RhoGAM binds to the fetal Rh-positive red cells. These antibody-coated cells are then removed by the maternal reticuloendothelial system without triggering an immune response. As a result, the maternal immune system does not become sensitized and does not produce its own anti-D antibodies. Timing is critical. RhoGAM is administered at 28 weeks gestation and again within 72 hours after delivery if the newborn is Rh positive. This schedule covers both the period of increasing fetal-maternal bleeding risk in late pregnancy and the exposure that typically occurs during labor and delivery. It is also indicated after any event that might cause fetal blood to enter the maternal circulation, including amniocentesis, abortion, significant bleeding, or trauma. The key concept is that RhoGAM prevents the formation of both anti-D antibodies and the memory B cells that would drive a stronger response in future pregnancies. Without RhoGAM, the immune system would recognize Rh-positive red cells as foreign and mount a long-lasting immune response. The critical window is before sensitization. Once the maternal immune system has been primed, RhoGAM is no longer effective. That's why timing and proper administration are essential for prevention. The accompanying diagram illustrates this progression. A mother who has not been sensitized receives RhoGAM during pregnancy, which prevents her from developing anti-D antibodies. If no antibodies are present on follow-up testing, sensitization has been successfully avoided. However, if antibodies are detected, sensitization has already occurred, and fetal risk increases in subsequent Rh-positive pregnancies. ABO incompatibility most commonly occurs when a type O mother carries a type A or B infant. This is because type O individuals naturally produce both anti-A and anti-B antibodies, some of which are IgG and capable of crossing the placenta. The clinical course is usually milder than Rh disease. One reason is that A and B antigens are less densely expressed on fetal red cells, which reduces the severity of antibody binding and hemolysis. Unlike Rh disease, ABO incompatibility can affect the first pregnancy because anti-A and anti-B antibodies are naturally occurring and not dependent on prior sensitization. The direct Coombs test may be weakly positive or even negative in these cases. This occurs because of limited antibody binding due to sparse antigen expression on neonatal red cells. Spherocytes may be seen on the blood smear. These are small, round red cells lacking central pallor, resulting from membrane loss during partial phagocytosis of antibody-coated cells. Jaundice typically appears between 24 and 48 hours after birth. It is usually mild and rarely leads to significant anemia, but careful monitoring is still required to prevent bilirubin-related complications. The accompanying diagram helps illustrate the ABO system, showing red cell surface antigens, naturally occurring antibodies in plasma, and the common donor-recipient relationships that also explain maternal-fetal incompatibility. Management of hemolytic disease of the newborn begins with immediate evaluation. This includes a type and cross-match for potential transfusion and a direct Coombs test to confirm antibody-mediated hemolysis. Bilirubin levels are monitored frequently, typically every 4 to 6 hours during the first day of life, to detect early and rapid rises that may indicate escalating hemolysis. Phototherapy should be started early, often as soon as bilirubin approaches treatment thresholds. Phototherapy converts unconjugated bilirubin into water-soluble isomers that can be excreted without hepatic conjugation. If bilirubin continues to rise despite intensive phototherapy, intravenous immunoglobulin, IVIG, may be given at a dose of 0.5 to 1 gram per kilogram. IVIG works by blocking Fc receptors in the reticuloendothelial system, reducing the destruction of antibody-coated red blood cells. Exchange transfusion is reserved for severe or refractory cases. Indications include bilirubin levels approaching the exchange threshold, a rise greater than 0.5 milligrams per deciliter per hour despite intensive phototherapy, the presence of hydrops fetalis, or severe anemia, defined as hemoglobin less than 10 grams per deciliter. This stepwise approach balances early intervention with escalation based on disease severity, aiming to prevent neurologic injury and stabilize hematologic status. G6PD deficiency is the most common enzyme deficiency worldwide, following X-linked inheritance. Understanding this biochemical pathway explains why certain populations face higher kernicterus risk. Glucose-6-phosphate dehydrogenase normally generates NADPH, which is essential for converting oxidized glutathione back to its reduced form. Reduced glutathione serves as the red blood cell's primary antioxidant defense, neutralizing oxidative stress and protecting hemoglobin from damage. When G6PD is deficient, this protective mechanism fails. The cell cannot regenerate reduced glutathione, leaving hemoglobin vulnerable to oxidative damage. Under stress, hemoglobin denatures and precipitates as Heinz bodies, which bind to the cell membrane and compromise its integrity, triggering hemolysis. X-linked inheritance means males express the deficiency in all red blood cells, while females show variable expression due to lionization. This explains why hemolytic crises predominantly affect males. Triggers include infections, sulfa drugs, antimalarials, fava beans, and naphthalene from mothballs. High-risk populations include Mediterranean, African, and Asian descent populations. G6PD deficiency presents as severe hyperbilirubinemia rather than anemia in neonates, typically appearing between days 2 to 3, not at birth. The jaundice often appears disproportionate to the degree of anemia. Acute hemolytic crises produce sudden pallor, dark urine from hemoglobinuria, and jaundice. Laboratory findings include Heinz bodies and bite cells on peripheral smear with elevated indirect bilirubin. The chronic presentation carries significant kernicterus risk, especially when co-inherited with Gilbert syndrome. UGT1A1 polymorphisms impair hepatic bilirubin conjugation, creating a dangerous combination of increased bilirubin production from hemolysis plus decreased clearance. Asian populations face particularly high risk. Even without obvious triggers, the oxidative stress of extrauterine transition can precipitate hemolysis in affected neonates. Recognition is critical because bilirubin levels can rise exponentially to dangerous levels. Standard enzyme screening may miss the diagnosis if performed immediately after hemolytic episodes, when deficient cells have been cleared. Hereditary spherocytosis results from membrane cytoskeletal defects affecting spectrin, ankyrin, band 3, or protein 4.2. These proteins normally maintain the vertical connections between the cytoskeleton and lipid bilayer. When these connections weaken, the membrane loses surface area through vesiculation. Red blood cells become progressively spherical, losing their biconcave shape and flexibility. These rigid spherocytes become trapped in splenic sinusoids where macrophages remove them, causing hemolysis. The inheritance pattern is autosomal dominant in 75% of cases, with the remainder being recessive. Clinical features include jaundice that may be severe in neonates, anemia, and splenomegaly developing later in life. Diagnosis relies on identifying spherocytes on blood smear, positive osmotic fragility testing, and family history. The osmotic fragility test exposes cells to progressively hypotonic solutions. Spherocytes with reduced surface area lyse more readily than normal cells. Management focuses on phototherapy for hyperbilirubinemia, transfusion support for symptomatic anemia, and folic acid supplementation. Splenectomy provides definitive treatment but is deferred until after age 5 due to infection risks. pyruvate kinase deficiency represents the most common glycolytic enzyme defect following autosomal recessive inheritance. This enzyme generates ATP in red blood cells, and its deficiency causes severe hemolytic anemia with echinocytes visible on blood smear. 90% of affected infants develop hyperbilirubemia, with 46% requiring exchange transfusion. The diagnosis should be considered in jaundiced newborns with non-immune hemolysis after ruling out membrane disorders and hemoglobinopathies. Alpha thalassemia major causes hydrops fetalis from profound hemolysis and anemia. 4 alpha-globin genes normally exist, and complete absence results in hemoglobin BARTs, which cannot carry oxygen effectively. Beta thalassemia remains asymptomatic in neonates due to high fetal hemoglobin levels. DIC-related hemolysis occurs when fibrin deposition in small vessels fragments red blood cells, producing schistocytes on blood smear. This microangiopathic hemolysis associates with coagulopathy and requires treating the underlying condition causing DIC. Hemoglobinopathies rarely cause symptoms in neonates due to high fetal hemoglobin levels, but early detection remains critical for preventive care. The protective effect of fetal hemoglobin explains why clinical manifestations don't appear until beta-globin synthesis increases around 3 to 6 months of age. Sickle cell disease affects 1 in 400 newborns in the United States. Although asymptomatic at birth, 2 potentially fatal complications can occur during the first year. Splenic sequestration crisis involves unpredictable pooling of red blood cells in the spleen, causing rapid hematocrit decline and cardiovascular collapse. Overwhelming sepsis, particularly from Streptococcus pneumoniae, occurs due to functional asplenia developing by 1 year of age. Alpha thalassemia major causes hydrops fetalis from complete absence of alpha-globin chains, resulting in hemoglobin BARTs that cannot transport oxygen effectively. Beta thalassemia remains asymptomatic in neonates because fetal hemoglobin predominates, but symptoms develop as beta-globin synthesis increases. All states mandate newborn screening for hemoglobinopathies, enabling early intervention with prophylactic penicillin, immunizations, and family education about recognizing complications. Hemoglobin electrophoresis patterns provide crucial diagnostic information. FA represents the normal pattern with fetal and adult hemoglobin. FAS indicates sickle cell trait, which is generally benign but carries implications for genetic counseling and potential complications under extreme conditions. FS indicates sickle cell disease, the most severe form requiring immediate comprehensive care, including penicillin prophylaxis, immunizations, and family education. FSC represents hemoglobin SC disease, which is milder than sickle cell anemia but still requires monitoring for complications. FSA indicates sickle beta plus thalassemia, where some normal beta globin is produced, resulting in a milder phenotype than sickle cell disease. The clinical severity depends on the amount of normal beta globin produced. Bart's hemoglobin patterns indicate alpha thalassemia. 2 to 8% Bart's suggests alpha thalassemia trait, which is generally asymptomatic, but important for genetic counseling. 25 to 50% Bart's indicates hemoglobin H disease, which can cause significant anemia and requires ongoing hematologic management. These screening results guide immediate clinical decisions and long-term care planning, emphasizing the importance of timely follow-up and appropriate subspecialty referrals for positive results.